So let's talk about a welcomed little gem of a movie that we saw a screening of early last night, Vengeance. Deep in the heart of Texas. Well, Andrew and I went and saw an early pre-screening of the movie Vengeance last night. Written, directed, and starring BJ Novak. You guys probably remember him as Ryan from The Office. And it was nice to see a movie that was just a good story, slightly lighthearted, and just a lot of fun. Very well made. In the midst of all these blockbuster movies coming out in the summertime, it's just really nice and refreshing to have a movie like this inserted. So look, right away, if you're from Texas, you gotta see this movie. It is 100% a love letter to Texas. For those of you who don't know, I'm a Texas guy. I live in Dallas. I've been here for over 20 years now. And man, the humor in this movie that is so specific to Texas, and they got it right, by the way, it's just awesome. Like I said, if you're from Texas, you have to see this movie. And look, BJ Novak must have spent some time, like significant time in Texas or something, because he really nailed the humor properly. And it wasn't making fun of Texas, it was having fun with Texas and really bringing a lot of these stereotypes that are true, bringing them to the surface. But man, the jokes, I'm telling you, were great, like some UT and Texas Tech jokes.
University of Texas. And who here is a fan of Texas Tech?
Just all things like that were all throughout. So the fact that BJ Novak, a Jewish guy from Massachusetts, I think, just nailed this Texas Southern charm and what is cool about Texas. So there's a lot of layers involved in this movie as far as what it's about, what he's trying to say with it. First off, I think he was just trying to create an entertaining movie that is wrapped up with a lot of social commentary. Going all the way from the way that we're consumed by streaming platforms and social media platforms, stretching from that, going all the way to like people that live out in the middle of nowhere in America that create all these conspiracy theories and stuff. It just touches on a lot of cool, fun things that I think a lot of us can kind of relate with. And while the movie is just truly showcasing what's great about Texas and the people of Texas, it's also a great murder mystery. You really get wrapped up at what's going on, but it's not scary or anything like that. It's comedy throughout, but smart comedy. And like I said, you can tell that this was really worked on hard by BJ Novak because it was just really smartly and cleverly written. Just from start to finish, you really enjoy the movie. There is a level of darkness in the movie because they are trying to solve a murder mystery. It's basically about BJ Novak being called into this Texas town. BJ lives in New York, by the way. And the reason he gets called into this town is because a girl that he was hooking up with in New York died. And the real heart and soul in the movie is the family that he goes and meets up with that was of this girl that died. But they all think that he was the boyfriend of this girl, and it's just really hilarious because he wasn't the boyfriend at all. And that's not spoiling anything. That's how the movie starts out right away. That's the premise of the movie. Actually, the opening scene is a scene with BJ Novak and John Mayer, of all people, and it's like a long opening dialogue scene. And it's got a lot of funny dialogue in there, a lot of clever stuff. It sets a lot of the tone for who BJ Novak is and where he's coming from, but it is pretty funny to see him and John Mayer just sort of banter back and forth. There's a lot of great reoccurring moments and things that happens, and it all centers around the family. Boyd Holbrook is awesome as the older brother. He's just hilarious all the way through. But there's a funny grandma, there's these funny sisters, there's these two cops in the town that are hilarious. They're always eating at Whataburger and they're just talking about how Whataburger is the greatest thing ever, and just the way they talk about Whataburger in this movie is hilarious. And especially if you're from Texas and you live in Texas, you get the jokes way more. If you don't live in Texas, I have to say, there might be a chance you might be getting some of the humor in this movie because it's so specific to Texas and well done. On top of it being this cool, clever, sleek, fun murder mystery and a tribute to Texas, it also has some twists and turns here and there, and has some really great performances by some people you wouldn't expect. Like Ashton Kutcher, he does a really good job in this movie, and I've seen him do a good job before, like in Jobs, the Steve Jobs movie. But that he's portraying like this icon. This was an original character, and I really bought into what he was saying as the character. Has some really cool speeches that he gives in there that I think as an audience member you might even learn from. Like there's a lot of great quotes that come out of the dialogue in this movie. Things that I'll remember. Overall, I highly recommend Vengeance. I give it an A+. It was well written, really enjoyable, well paced. I didn't have any complaints or nothing was silly about it. It was just a really cool, refreshing, original story, and I'm really wanting that these days. Give me originality. And if you're from Texas, like I said, you gotta see this movie. 100%. Well, that'll do it for this review, guys. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. And hit that like button if you enjoyed it. And if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button so you can help us make it to the top. And as always, if life gives you lemons, make some hot, fresh popcorns.
You're going to need a 12 gauge, couple of ARs, Wesson automatic, and a sidearm for safety.